just wanted to have a quick discussion about a couple triggers. I'm filming this on the 4th of July, so you hear some explosions in the background. I'm not in a war zone. Kind of cool background, I think, for some trigger talk. But I'm about to build a lower, and I'm going to use that Geisley SDC, so I wanted to do a quick little opinion video about triggers before I built that lower up. So on the right you have the Geisley SDC, as I said, and on the left you've got the Spikes battle trigger that's nickel boron coated, and I have an upgraded JP Enterprises spring kit on there, the red and yellow spring kit. These are triggers that I've run in several of the rifles that I built. In fact, I put a few of them up there for demonstration purposes. On top I've got my Noveske 300 Blackout that's got the SDC installed, and on the bottom I've got a Spikes tactical that I built for my girlfriend that's got the Spikes battle trigger installed. And I've run both of them a lot, and they're both excellent triggers. I'd be perfectly happy having either trigger, going into a combat situation. They're both going to perform excellent, but there's a few differences. One of the big differences is cost. I like to buy things on sale. I know I'm always going to be building the next rifle. It's kind of an addiction. So if I see parts I like on sale, I'll typically go ahead and get them. I subscribe to a lot of the email lists for places like Palmetto State Armory, Primary Arms, Midway USA, Optics Planet, Brownells, etc., etc. And about once a year the Geisley stuff goes on sale for 30% off. And pretty much every time I've seen that 30% off, I've purchased a Geisley SDC just because it's my favorite trigger. I also got the Spikes on sale. A little bit of love. But there's a big difference. All in, the Spikes is about $60 or $65 with that upgraded spring kit. Even with the 30% off, you're looking at about $200 for the Geisley. Is the Geisley worth that much extra? I don't know. It all comes down to personal preference and discretionary income. Both excellent triggers, like I said, but the Geisley is certainly a little more expensive. One of the coolest things about the Geisley is that flat trigger bow. Not only is it very cool looking, but it's functional in that no matter where your finger lands on that trigger, you're going to get a pretty consistent feel and pull out of it. A couple other points to think about triggers, and these are strictly opinion. One is, I've been shooting ARs for about 20 years now, and for most of that time, I bought my ARs off the shelf. With standard 2-stage, 4.5 to 5.5 pound mil-spec triggers. You spend 20 years pulling 2-stage triggers, you get used to it. So about a year ago, I bought this really cool flat trigger bow drop-in single-stage trigger. I got a deal on it, bought it on sale. Thought, oh, this is going to be cool. I'm going to love this thing. I hated it. I couldn't get used to it. I've spent 20 years taking the slack out of the first stage before expecting the gun to go bang, and you're running a course or you're in a string of fire, and your brain's telling you, okay, I need to take the slack out, and on a single stage trigger you take that slack out and it's going boom. So it just didn't work for me. I've developed too much muscle memory on the 2-stage triggers that I couldn't get used to it. Somebody that's a new shooter or new to the AR platform, you want to try that? Yeah, go ahead. You haven't developed that muscle memory yet, you may love it. It just wasn't for me. Again, totally a matter of opinion. For me, your everyday carry rifle, your go-to-war rifle, your home defense rifle, I think you want a 2-stage trigger. Also, I think you want at least a 4.5-pound trigger. The Geisley trigger, almost every trigger he also makes an enhanced version, which is usually about a pound lighter. The SDC is no exception. When I was buying my first Geisley, I debated, do I want the SDC or do I want the SDCE? And I landed on the SDC, and I'm glad I did, because the first couple times I took it to the range, I loved it, but it was a little bit scary, because you'd be running a string of fire, and you'd have a couple shots in there that you weren't really 100% ready for. I mean, you'd be on target and all that stuff, but it kind of took you by surprise a few times till you got used to it. And so I left my first couple range trips with that trigger thinking, man, I'm glad I did not get the enhanced. Again, my opinion, just me. Some of you hardcore people out there, you might love the enhanced version, but in my opinion, your battle rifle, your patrol rifle, your home defense rifle, I think you want at least a 4.5-pound trigger. So, just a few points to think about. Two fantastic triggers, kind of on the opposite ends of the cost scale. Two-stage triggers, 4.5-pound triggers.